start.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start the. Thank you. All right, we're gonna start. So enter into a work session. We'll do a roll call now or at meeting?
Now would be great.
Okay, can we do the roll call?
Councilmember Thompson,
Here?
Emmeline Baker, here, Farrell, here, Kathy,
Here.
Keller,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Mayor Fallon.
Here. All is present. Okay, so. Then we're doing a little work session, of course, so,
I'm good.
okay.
That's right. That's all.
All right, thank you. It was consensus of council to talk about the LOC conference. Just kind of hear a little bit from everyone. On how the conference went, any thoughts, notes, things like that. Great. Yeah, okay, I know I'll get some of what. So, that would be, let's see, Councilmember Butch and Councilmember Denise and Councilmember Happy. Myself and Jordan. Okay. Who would like to go first?
I can do that.
Okay.
We got a lot to cover. We got 30 minutes, so.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to comment before I even start on that, though, that, Ms. Pruitt, I mean, our last council meeting expressed some concerns, or I guess her sentiment about the cost associated with sending us to the LOC conference, and I think that those comments are entirely justified. And I think that it's, but I thought a lot about that the last couple of weeks, and I just want to say that I really feel like when the city sends counselors or our city staff to participate in these kind of workshops, it's really an investment in, our community. But that investment really comes with an expectation that it better pay off. So I think that that's what this is right here, is how can we take some of the lessons we learned at the LSC Fall Conference and bring it back to our city, and how does it apply to us? I'm looking at my iPad because that's what I took my notes on. All of my notes that I'm reviewing right now, I put in a PDF and I sent it to Jordan, so we have those for record keeping requirements. Those are all been emailed over. Really, probably the workshop that I took the most out of was the counselor workshop on the first day. The person that ran that, his name is Ron Hollyfield, and he's a CEO of Strategic Government Resources. And really what he was speaking to was the idea of servant leadership as it applies to government service and, as elected officials. And that was something that really resonated with me because it's a management principle that I believe in. And so he kind of helped me bridge the gap between what I do on my day job and what I'm doing here. My takeaways from that session, though, were really our job is to cast vision. 20-year plan not to get involved in day-to-day operations of city staff. And he gave some really good examples of one of the examples he gave was a public works somebody calling him, asking him to, about their potholes in their street, and the Department of Public Works was paving one street over, and they said, well, can you just take care of these potholes on my street? So he went over and talked to the Public Works guys, this is the mayor, and he's trying to be helpful and do the right thing for this, for the town. And he goes over and talks to the Public Works people, and of course, they're like, well, sure, no problem, we'll come over and take care of that. And they spent the rest of their day filling these potholes. And then next week, they're out digging up the street to replace the sewer lines. And so the point was, let the city do their thing, and we need to be focusing on providing the vision. He kind of used the metaphor of driving a ship, and we don't need to be down in the engine room tinkering with the motor. We should be up on the bridge, pumping the ship. We got to be forward thinking. He said we really should have 2 workshops per year, one in January for review council procedures and city charter. I think that's how many problems have we had because of the way that we interpret our charter or council procedures. And even if we don't have anybody new on council, elections are, every 2 years, so we may not have anybody new on council. It's still a good idea to review those together. And then the second one, I can't remember when he said to do the second one, but I think it was more of a goal setting workshop. I didn't write that down. he's, one of the other takeaways I had was the idea of an off-week study session, sort of like what we're doing here, but I feel like there's more work, 30 minutes.
It's hard to get it.
Once, you know, it's hard for us to really, I guess, get it all done in 30 minutes. Emotion is not over after the vote. I thought that was really good to remember that, there's still gonna be people that, I mean, a good example is, our roll cars, right? So it, you know, sometimes just because we voted on it, doesn't mean that it's not gonna come back to us. Times on the agenda to keep on track. I thought that was really actionable and something that we could institute right away. It's hard to know if we're on track or behind if we don't have those times on the agenda, but having some guidelines, I think might help us, be more effective with our time management.
I think the school district does that, don't we do that on the agenda? Yeah.
Mutual trust is vital and will increase debate. Inclusivity and diversity improves debate. And it's not about the next election, it's about the next generation. And I thought that was a really good takeaway. It's not about us, it's about trying to make our community a better place for the next generation. I went to a lot of stuff about housing, and that was a very complicated topic. Homelessness, again, is tied directly to the housing conversation. And what I realized from all of that was it's way over my head, very complicated. And there's, you know, one of the examples they gave, it was the top 3 legal issues facing Oregon, and it was homelessness, and homelessness. And they pointed to an example from the city of Portland, where they had a federal judgment against them that they could not enforce their ordinances, which was related to homelessness. But then, you know, the business people filed another lawsuit because of ADA access and the sidewalks being blocked. And they got a judgment from the state saying they had to enforce the ordinances. It was just a really good example of just like, it's a mess. But I guess I walked away from that feeling really more positive than I expected, because of the fact that I realized there's a lot of really smart people that realize it's a mess and they are working on it. They did say that it's rapidly changing and lots, and it really needs to be a holistic approach to fixing it. So there were some people from Eastern Oregon, and they were talking about how they had policies in place where they were basically booting people out, and they were just, you know, moving from, you know, for our example here in the Gorge, we like Hood River, they get booted out of Hood River, they come to Cascade Locks, we boot them out here, they go to the Dalles, and from the Dalles they go back to Hood River. So they're just cycling these people around. They weren't really getting them off the streets, and it was just, so they realized they had to work together to find a solution. So the point that they're bringing up was it really needs to be an Oregon solution to you know, it's a bigger issue than just that it's really being kind of tossed on the shoulders of the cities to deal with. And we need some support from the state government to really find some solutions to prevent the problem, or address the issue. Interesting conversation about compensation, counselor compensation. And it sort of seems, I always saw that this is sort of a volunteer activity, something we do to give back to our community. But this ties back to the idea of diversity and inclusion, that we're, you know, we might be able to participate and do this because we have the resources, and we're able to do this because financially we're stable. You know, one of the reasons I think it's great that we're doing these meetings in the evening, but if, for example, some cities, they might hold their council meetings in the middle of the day and people can't participate unless they're retired. I feel like we have a really good representation of our demographic on this council, but there were some takeaways I had though about ways that we could increase diversity and inclusion. Like, for example, having coloring books at our council meetings, so that way the kids can be occupied and entertained. But they're talking about compensation helps to address some of the barriers to participation. The goal of compensation for elected officials to promote diversity and inclusion. And our city really is better when we have a variety of perspectives to consider issues. So I wonder who isn't here because maybe they can't participate because they've got kids, and in order for them to participate in city council meetings, they're gonna have to get a babysitter. There's one counselor I was talking to, and they were in a place where they actually did get compensated as a small stipend, but it's still it cost her money, she wasn't getting compensated as much as her babysitter is, to take care of her child so that she can participate. So it made me think a little bit about, the choices we all made to be a part of this, but maybe there's other people in our community that would participate if, they had the means to be able to get childcare, for example. They did say that it wouldn't be appropriate necessarily for council to discuss compensation for them, but it would be, more appropriate to, have a committee that would actually look at this, that was, by citizens in the community. So that way it's not a conflict of interest, like we're looking at trying to pat it on walls, for example. And then, I guess I had noted that I had a conversation with Greg Leo, who is a lobbyist from the Leo company. And Mark Opnad, he's the Public Government Affairs Director of City of Walsenville. Greg is a lobbyist, and not only does he work with the City of Walsenville, but I worked with him when he's a lobbyist for Warm Springs and Mountain Meadows. And so I kind of was asking Greg for some advice on how to deal with ODOT, because he has a lot of experience working with ODOT from his relationship up in Meadows. And he also has a connection with Cascade Locks because of his Warm Springs connection. So he was involved with the casino as well as the Nestle issue as well. And so he was recommending that we reach out to Jeff Helfrich, and he suggested that Representative Helfrich might be able to, he has a lot of political capital right now because he's the minority speaker of the House in September. And so that really puts him in a position where he has some political capital that he can lean on. And Greg's perspective was, this is absolutely nothing that the city of Cascade Lodge should be paying for relocating our utilities on the Cork Creek Bridge, that this is really something that the developer should be paying for, not us. So I thought that was a really good takeaway. And that's really all of my, I guess that's, yeah, I'm trying to keep it short. Does anybody have any questions about all that? I was trying to highlight just the key points there.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Miller?
You left the most important part, and that guy that did the council workshop, he was the inventor of silly putty.
I forgot.
No,
Interesting.
yeah. So, yeah, and after you start going to a few of these meetings and stuff, they start to get a little bit repetitious. And some of the workshops we go to, and so I spent a lot of time in reconnecting with people I met, the other ones, especially Steve Uppelman, the council president from Prineville, who did all that work to get Facebook down there, and now that they're free of all the tax incentives that Facebook was getting, all the money is now going to Prineville. So it is the importance of getting a diversified labor market and industrial complex in your area, so that your city can make money and be able to afford things. Now, Prineville is going to be awash in money. And he was complaining about what he was going to do with it all. And I made contact with the city councilor Ellen Roseburg again, and we talked about tiny homes and stuff, and did a lot of research on how, for homelessness, how those could work here. But of course, here we have a property issue and having enough property to build homes. So we're restricted by where we can put them and by the people that own the property now. So, and I talked with the mayor of Condon, and we were talking about grants and how do you get them, and Condon just received a $250,000 grant to refurbish their Liberty Theater for arts. There's money out there, it's just you have to identify the need, where to go. And as far as the meal and Mrs. Pruitt, it was $70. Yeah, I could have skipped that one. No, but that's about all I have.
Thanks, so I did email you on the, I think, October 23rd, some notes, and I tried to put a key. Yellow highlight is very applicable to Cascade lots, blue highlight is applicable to small cities because of, obviously some of these are big cities, similar meetings that it's kind of great sometimes that we hear the same thing too. I love the times on the agenda and his idea that while we do need to discuss small things that matter to our communities, we've got to keep the big goal in mind. And loving that we have a strategic plan to help guide us, and we're going to do a joint work session with the port. But so on housing, it takes courage and empathy to figure out housing solutions. I'm just gonna read you a little bit of this, the applicable things that I said. There are state entities that can help us. And I put some of those in the document. And then they're saying, I mentioned several housing workshops, one to get as much as we could. And some of the things I'm hearing is that we need to streamline our development code. In Springfield, they did that, and they have make it easy to let property owners know what they could do with their property. They're talking about Springfield has one of the best ADU programs in the state, whereupon I am understanding that the residential properties can put a long-term rental on their property, or rent a room long-term to help with that. Workforce housing, permit timing has an impact on affordability. So, reducing the amount of time it's in their hands, simplify and clarify codes. And they are saying that what you need to do is, in a small town place like Condon, which won some awards, 2,000 people it has. They've added apartments, they got a grant from AARP that allowed for ADUs for senior housing. They added ADU permitted use in this Condon town of 2,000 people. They have multifamily, duplex, fourplex, are not a conditional permit. Now, as we learn more about planning, we'll learn things, and we may not do the same thing. I thought it was interesting. They had an old grade school. They're trying to turn it into affordable housing. Another small town he met, as Butch, Councilman Miller mentioned, making the connections and asking people, what do you, oh, you have an old school too. They are using it as a, should we ever move our city hall, another small town is using it as a community center, and they're actually renting out the classrooms for $400 a month. It is a town, I think, of like 800 people. And I go, people are paying $400 a month for their yoga studio? Yes. And then there's a craft studio in this one. They have movies down in the gym area. So just being creative, that's what I'm hearing over and over and over again. Now, one thing that Condon said is that state and federal grants are very complex for their staff. They, even their contracted planner, so they have checked in with the state to help them, and they have on contract somebody who can help them. What else? Partnering with counties, schools, fire, cooperative projects. If we need, housing is number one, and Condon is saying Condon can. They're saying yes first and then changing the codes to help meet that if it fits their plan. So what I said is they have somebody from they would hope that somebody from a small town like ours would be on the state housing committee. This is the state housing committee where we can call and get some help. And I know we're looking at some planning issues tonight. They have the same planner who plans for many small towns, including Maupin and Boardman. And that Condon they're very trying to be development friendly, so doing a lot of hand holding, helping folks. And then this is when I said they have a contract development who helps people along. So now that they made this ADU plan, people are like, now how do I do that? So they have somebody on contract to help people so it gets done. And even for developers, Condon does not have system development charges. That helps with things, but they do have connection fees. So on their ADUs, if you need a new connection, you don't get charged if you don't need a new connection. And they said they straight out asked the developers what's working for you with our planning process and what is not. We need to learn how to build affordable housing in a creative way, adapting the codes. So they're saying the danger for small cities is we can't do it all. We have to develop with the private sector, find a resource list to help developers to show what they need to do to get done. And advocate at the county level as well. What else I'm seeing in my highlighted things is that funding. I said this whole section, I went to a grant writing workshop. Believe it or not, anybody who uses Chat GPT, you can put in the parameters of this particular grant writing workshop said, grants tend to be very specific. And you can begin to write it and you can put it into an AI program that says, write a grant, here's my data. And then of course that's just a draft, you would change that. But they're talking about some places have grant committees. As Butch mentioned, and I'm not sure Pete did, there are so many grants out there. We just have to decide which ones we're going for, which ones meet our plans. And then is it a grant writing committee? Is it that each of us are part of a committee that we try to help? I am not sure, but I hate the fact that we are missing grants when we hear that somebody else got 200,000, but it takes time and work, and I appreciate that our city administrator has. So all these pages are on grants and how to get the money. On the other thing is that there are loans to nonprofit lenders, to businesses. So Craft 3 can do certain 5% fixed rate in our certain economies. So getting this resource list that we might have available to our developers and businesses. So there's pathways for training. And on this note, we need more contractors apparently. And it is suggested that we contact our local small business development center and our local community college and see what their tech programs are for what we need in this town. And they are suggesting it is important to have all city businesses registered in your city so that you know what you have and that you can, lenders will come to market to new businesses and that new businesses can market for each other. And it can be a very nominal business registration fee once you have that. So I did go to the homeless, some innovative homeless situations they had in Eugene, which might be appropriate here, as Councilman Miller said, small houses, but the big key takeaway from that is you need to have the services. There is money, but if we don't have the services, we need to partner with Hood River County that does and figure out how we're going to get the folks, the few folks that are here, to the services they need. And I did meet someone from a small town who had a small, maybe larger than usual business card. I wish I brought it with me, that had a list of resources and a QR code that you give to homeless people, because many homeless people still have a phone. I thought, wow, that's fabulous. I made that one resource list for you all. So, the affordable housing piece is separate from the services needed for the homeless, because that's a whole wraparound service. We need a whole wraparound service, and that's where we need to partner with our county services right now until as we have more, but I truly do learn a lot. I'm gonna try to put these, in a place where we can find them under housing. Even though I gave you a Google link, you can open it on a Word doc. If you don't have, I have a separate Google email for the city council, so that it's all just city council stuff, so we can start saving housing in this spot. And then just again, as Councilman Miller said, the connections we make. I think at the awards dinner, we saw that some high school teachers, one for their civic work with the city council in that town, and getting actually young 18-year-old adults involved in the city council. So the idea that we want to get the young people involved too, the people that we want to stay in our town. And we want that already know it and care about it as well. And I think that's all I have for this moment.
All right, thank you.
I'll do it here.
Points. I did like that card that they had, that you could give someone, and it had listed all the services. So they could knew where the food bank was, medical, everything. So something to think about. Jordan, your takeaways from?
I didn't really have much. I mean, I went to some different ones from you guys. AI is gonna change how not just us, but everybody operates. So I'm trying to learn that as fast as I can. It was one of the takeaways I got. Again, housing, again, it's a national thing, and not one city's gonna solve it, so. But I didn't, nothing different from you guys. There's money everywhere. I've got a plan to use it and resources. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Baker, for your glasses here, I forgot mine. So, I'll keep it short here, so we've got like a minute or two before we start the meeting. I thought it was a great conference. Yes, we go to conferences and you see the same people and everything, but those are some of the big perks, because it's the relationships that you develop. And all of it, yes, it's a lot of it's about housing, but a lot of good things. I don't want to dismiss what we learned. I went to the first one, that how cities are encouraging needed housing development. Once again, was able to go, and I happened to be sitting with Mark. He's from Business Oregon, and I told him where we were, what kind of challenges we were facing. He gave me Valerie, who was with Business Oregon. She's the one who services us in this region, so I have all her contact information. ADUs, what's our codes? Talked to the gentleman out of Hood River. He's the director of planning and zoning, Dustin. He's super helpful. He's like, hey, come on over, we'll have coffee and meet, or I'll come present. He was amazing. And then Hood River, they're doing affordable housing strategies. They're working on that, so we can partner with them. A lot of good ideas. Met with Brian, he's the director of HUD. He's our Oregon field officer. That was another relationship. And he says grants.gov, but they're very complex, way to find funding. That's what we all hear. The main thing is, oh, there's money out there, but how do you access it? But luckily with these, we have good connections. Let's see. The guest speaker, that was Bill Strickland, probably one of the best keynote speakers I've heard in a long, long time. Gentleman out of Pittsburgh, and how he basically took a very underserved, very underserved area with PATH and kids that were, they don't have straight A's, they don't have any money, and how he has created so many businesses and rec centers for kids. And so he made you walk away feeling like you can do the impossible. And he, I normally, we got to hear him, but then actually after hours, got to able and sit down and have a really good, about a half hour with him. Just him and I, one-on-one, and it was a lot of learning there. Went to succession planning, preparing for tomorrow's workforce today. Amazing, that was what, an hour and a half, that could have easily been a 4-hour session. Lots and lots of good ideas. They're saying years ago where people said, you know, well, we're the government or the school or the city, that we have great benefits and people should want to come work for us. He says it's not that way anymore. People have different values. He says you've got to change with the times, because if you continue at it, like, well, we have benefits and this is why people want to come. He said, no, you've got to figure out what makes you different, what attracts you, and things that he talked about all different strategies on that. And then I went to increasing community civic engagement, both urban and rural areas. They had lots of ideas on that as well. I'll get this stuff typed up so then we can do it more detailed. But just about increasing community, like, with the mayor, and so that's why I do Mayor Monday. Last 2 months, we've done Mayor Monday, and we've created, I think it was it $200 for the school, the first one, 200 or 300, and then the most recent one was search and rescue at Buddy's Arcade, and we did 400 on that one. And then the importance of reaching out to different populations, not just meeting the same individuals that you normally know. And they kept saying, we must be better together. We absolutely, completely, wholeheartedly believe that. Went to a session with, what is the name of that one? It was basically on civic engagement meetings. Met with Dan Brown. He was the guest speaker on that, and I'm gonna get the video, and I'm highly encourage all the council members to watch it, because it talks about what happens at a contentious meeting. And Mayor Mays and I had a nice conversation after this breakout session, and through CIS, I believe it is, insurance, that we can sponsor, the CIS would pay for it, but they'll pay for this Dan Brown, he's an officer, to come out and do a workshop, or we could do it all together, like Hood River, the Dalles, Cascade Locks. But the importance of this, I'll see if I can't get that movie clip and send out to you guys, it's pretty interesting. And let's see. What else? That's about it, but just other than that, lots of great connections. The dinner, I didn't think was bad, but I think going to these dinners also, it's out of respect for your fellow, council members, mayors, individuals who are receiving the awards. These individuals who receive these awards, I mean, they do a lot for their communities, and if they showed up and there's 10 people in that banquet room, that's just not very respectful. So I think it's always well money spent to go. We all do things sometimes, you know, that we're like, well, we're not thrilled to go, but I think it's important to participate, and sometimes you just have to show up. You have to show up and be counted and be present, and be present for others, not just for what your needs are. So that was it in a nutshell here.
Can I comment on one thing before we wrap this up?
Sure, we're 6 minutes behind. I'm watching a different
I was
clock.
looking at that one too.
I know, I apologize, so.
I was gonna say that conversation I had with Dustin from the city of Hood River about your STRs, short-term rentals was. My takeaway from that was they just rewrote that ordinance and they made it so that it has to be owner occupied. And how the goal with that is to try to increase more housing for people to live in. And meanwhile, they're also building out that new building downtown, where it's not
Right.
building, they're turning that back into a hotel, they're trying to get tourists into hotels, so that homes are for people to live in, and I thought that was a really good takeaway.
Right. Okay, so. Apologize, 7:06, we're gonna get our clock fixed after this evening, so we're running a few minutes behind, but let's go ahead and start the meeting. Carolyn, are you ready? We're good?
Yeah.
All right.
Still rolling.
Okay, that's all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call again.
Right, Councilmember Compton.
Here.
Emmerling Baker. Here. Farrell. Here. Capper.
Here.
Keller.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Mayor Farrell.
Here. Okay, just, I want to read a little paragraph here before we get into the agenda. To honor Native American Heritage Month, this month, I'd like to share the Columbia River Gorge Commission Land Acknowledgement. I believe this is important, and I'm gonna apologize if I mispronounce any of the tribes, their pronunciations of those. I said, we acknowledge and honor that the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area is located within the ancestral territories of indigenous peoples who have protected these lands and waters since time immemorial. We also honor the sovereignty, the role of the 4 Columbia River Treaty Tribes in taking care of these lands and waters today. The Confederated Tribes of Warden Springs, the Confederated Bands and Tribes of the Yakima Nation, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and the Nez Perce Tribe. These bands and tribes include the Wasco, Warm Springs, Cayuse, Umatilla, Walla Walla, Kamilpa, Klickitat, Tlingit, Kawasee, this is where it gets up, and West, and Ochipotos, Palouse, Piscos, and Siapat, and Shikets. I'm really apologize for this pronunciation. Sinpat, Wawala, and Wennesfam, Wishram, Yakima, and Nimkui peoples. We are committed to working together with tribal governments through government-to-government partnerships and people-to-people relationships. We offer this land acknowledgement and gratitude for all those we have come before us and those cultivating respectful relationships today and into the future. In recognition of historical and ongoing legacy of colonism and commitment to work together for a more just and equitable future and protection of our shared connection to these lands and waters. So just wanted to acknowledge that for National Native American. Thank you. And then I'm gonna ask the public, if you have conversations, if you could take those outside, please, just when we're reading things, it's just distractful, so just out of respect, that would be great. I appreciate it. Okay, any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I have 2, under 7A, committee reports, tourism is here tonight to present. I would also like to add an executive session under ORS 192.660, subsection 2, subsection F. Exempt public records to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection.
Okay. Any other?
Can you say that number again?
Yeah.
192.660, section 2, subsection F, if I'm saying the section part right.
Okay, so hearing no other additions or amendments. Approval? Of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. Yes, second.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Compton.
Aye.
Emmerling Baker.
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye.
Happy.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Mayor Farrell.
Aye. Okay. And let's see, so no permit the adoption of consent agenda on that. Nope, adoption of agenda, consent agenda.
I would like to make one comment on the minutes. It is not a correction, but it is because what was said was believed at the time, but, Councilmember Miller, you stated that a council member and his wife were both a part of the committee. Was that, in relation to me and my wife?
Yes,
My wife is not a part of the committee. She
I was
attended,
on the list.
she attended one meeting, but was not a participant.
Okay, well, she was on the list.
That's why I'm correcting.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you were wrong, because I'm sure her name was on the list, because they made her say her name, even though she was just there watching on Zoom, but she was not a participant.
So you just wanted to clarify.
I just want to clarify.
Okay. Any
Okay.
others? Okay, we need to,
I move to adopt the consent agenda, including the approval of minutes from October 23rd, 2023 council meeting, and the ratification of bills in the amount of $296,019.80.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emily Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Okay, next, appearance of interested citizens. We have two, Miss Courtney Kilman. Did I say it right? No. What's the correct pronunciation?
Kyleman.
Kyleman, thank you.
So the second vowel is hard.
Thank you.
Like Kyleman, here about Flow Technologies again. They were even one sewer lid closer to my house. So I'm literally right at the end of my driveway. They had one small little piece of barricade up, but it was like straddling the sewer cover. So by the time you made it to the barricade, you have already fallen in. That doesn't fall under OSHA's jurisdiction. And I would just like to see somebody talk to them so they can get their stuff together. Cause that's,
Do you have a date on that?
they want to take the picture. We can tell you, oh, there it is. October 31st, Halloween, when all the kids are walking around.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And you took a picture of it?
Yes, I took a picture of every incident that has happened.
Jordan, if our public wants to take a picture and stuff, they could send it to you, and then we could view it on the screen. If that's
Okay.
possible.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. All right, this is Tiffany Pruitt.
At the previous, city council meeting, it was said that, not being able to raise rates is costing the citizens. Well, my suggestion is put something on the ballot. I mean, why wait until you go through this, like, you see, you're gonna reconstitute the committee to go over the charter, but why not just put something on the ballot? I imagine there are not going to be hardly any people that are gonna vote against raising the SDCs if they know that the city's losing money, just put it on the ballot. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. We keep whining about this charter restriction that the citizens voted on for a reason. Just do what you need to do, just put it on the ballot. It's not that difficult. And explain your point. And with that one especially, I can't imagine that there would be a lot of resistance on the city being able to make more money. Stop losing money for the city, do something about it.
Thank you.
I do have one I received.
Okay.
Dear city council members, my name is Alo Mendoza Ramos. I'm a high school senior at Hood River Valley High School, and I have been a resident of Cascade Locks for about 6 years. About a month ago, I attended one of the city council meetings as part of a class to see what the function of a city government is like and to get an extra credit grade in a class. Prior to attending the meeting, I had a bit of apathy towards the ordeal. Going into this, I was not too fear anything that would have any relevance to my life. I wasn't expecting to care, but I was wrong. When I arrived at the meeting, I was a bit nervous. I knew I was going to be the only Latino in the room. I knew I would stand out. I sat down and tried to be a quiet observer. At first, I was doing quite well at being invisible until a council member who was looking at the project for betterment of Cascade Locks argued that printing city newsletters in Spanish would be too expensive and useless. The moment that she said that, I was quite shocked. I then felt like an outsider. I had found her comments to be slightly hurtful because not only was my first language Spanish, but my mom only speaks Spanish. My whole life, I've been witness to my mom's struggles with trying to understand English and communicate with people who only speak English. On top of that, I know a handful of people in our community who also only speak Spanish. To me, the comment that the council member made was quite disheartening. Thankfully, one of the city council members brought up concerns with her position on the matter, which made it less difficult to have heard that comment. The reason I bring this up is because if I am being quite honest, I believe that having a newsletter in Spanish would not only bring more unity to our community, but would also make Latino people in our community feel welcome. It would lead to the betterment of our community, which would improve our outreach of any social, educational, health-related communal activities. I know that this seems small, but creating an environment in which people feel welcome is key to a growing community and key to making people feel at home. Thank you all for your time and for your considering my observations and perspective. Sincerely, Alo Mendoza Ramos.
Thank you. Okay, any others?
I'm not seeing any hands raised online.
So public hearing,
No public.
okay, action items. Action items A, approved truck box quote.
At the July 24th, 2023 council meeting, council approved the purchase of a new light duty utility truck for the public works department. The purchase only included the frame and cab. The box for the truck is an additional purchase. The city followed both RS intermediate procurement process and the city's own finance policy and obtained three written quotes for a nap high truck box. These prices include installation. Nelson Truck Equipment Company came at $53,323.40. Pacific Truck Colors Inc. Came in at $57,736, and Nap High Truck Equipment came in at $67,901. I will note that these were the exact same, we asked for the exact same thing from all three, so very wide range. Public Works Supervisor Price recommends selecting and moving forward with the quote from Nelson Truck Equipment Company because of the price and the positive work we've done with the company in the past. We have worked with them several times in the past. It's been nothing but good experiences for the city. The purchase of the truck, the box and install come in well below what was budgeted. The expense is being spread across capital reserve funds, property, sewer, water, and streets. Budgeted total was $135,000. The truck was purchased at $56,651.03. If this purchase is approved per Supervisor Price's recommendation, is $53,322.40 for a total of $109,974.43. City staff plans to request to surplus the old truck and sell it. The arrival of the new truck is estimated to be about 6 to 7 months. Any questions?
Questions,
All
thoughts?
right. You guys have to do your process first.
So it looks like we have three different, if we went with the 53 Nelson truck, it sounds like we already have a relationship, a good working relationship with them.
Yeah, and they're actually right next door to the place currently building our truck.
Oh, well, that's even a perk.
Yeah.
Does anybody council have comments on the different bids?
I'm happy that the most financially feasible one is the one recommended by Supervisor Price, and that we have positive. That's always a win. We have positive past experience, so.
Yeah, I'm glad that you looked into a third quote. I was noticing that the dates on the other two are August and July. So obviously you weren't happy with those and you went.
Well, so we asked for the quote from Nelson back then, and it took until just the other week to finally get the quote back.
Okay, because I
So
noticed,
that's why it's a new quote.
very good, because I noticed one of them is valid till September 6th and that's expired now, but, so anyway, so I'm glad you did that. I had one question, Is the old one able to work at all in the meantime, or do we need to look for a rental?
Oh, no, it works, yeah, it works, it's just, it's old, it's at the end of its life. I mean, it'll do, it'll do.
It's hanging on.
It needs replaced.
Yeah.
The driver's seat has, I mean, Sheldon's sitting on that, in the driver's seat, so yeah, it's due.
And so with Nelson, they're also the most recent bid, so chances of it changing.
Are very
You're
slight.
telling me we got a chance that it won't change.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. So do we need a vote or consensus?
When you vote.
Okay.
With this level of purchase,
Okay.
is there any?
Any other comments?
I'm just gonna make a motion.
Okay. Make a motion.
I move to approve the quote for Nelson Truck Equipment Company and purchase the truck box in the amount of $50,350.40.
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we need to move for both of those, the truck and the box?
No,
We already approved it.
Right,
Truck
okay,
is already
good,
bought.
thank you.
Just the box.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All right. Roll call vote?
Councilmember Plumpton,
Aye.
Emerald Baker,
I,
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Eric Galvin.
Aye. All right, approval of the truck box quote. Passes for Nelson. All right, next, approved quote for community development code changes.
At the October 23rd, 2023 council meeting, council directed city administrator Bennett to get quotes for planning consulting from planning consulting companies to update Article 5, develop review chapter 8-6.148.020, applicability of provisions, section H, the community development code, and specifically look at increasing the length a temporary vendor can be in a commercial zone before a site plan is required. Quotes were obtained from Chinook Institute and WSP. WSP is our current contracted planner. Below are rough amounts provided, more detail on the quotes attached. Chinook Institute came in at $750. WSP came in at, with two options, one at $11,000, one at $22,000. Whoever's approved will work with the planning commission to amend the code. I will note, as you can probably see in the quote, WFP's amount of work in the process is much more significant than Chinook Institute.
I had a question, Senator.
Mhm.
The quote from Chinook seems very vague, and I was curious, what does the 5 hours actually give us?
So it'd be 1 hour, hour minutes. Simply changing the request would be about 1 hour, so that's just going in, changing the sentence to update to what we'd like to see, would be probably 1 hour minimum charge, $150. However, he did notice an issue, fact finding, and we can prepare those as well, so essentially a review of making sure it doesn't, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Conflict.
Conflict, thank you, yes, with the rest of the code. And then a concern about not having a definition for temporary retail and service activities. So reviewing that and adding a definition will be another 2 hours. So 1 hour for actually updating it, 2 for doing fact finding, and 2 for creating a definition for temporary retail service.
And I guess, forgive me for not being properly prepared, but are we only focused on the food trucks, or are we wanting to do everything within our development code? I guess I didn't know.
So it's really that one
It's that
particular
one
sentence.
That limits time.
Yeah.
and I know I phoned, City Administrator Bennett earlier to say, what does our contract with our planner, does it allow us to seek planning assistance elsewhere? And you said it does allow us
There's
that.
nothing that says they're exclusive.
And I just want to point out that I have a copy of the questions that we asked our city attorney in a previous meeting. This particular copy does not have a date on it. But when we asked, how should land use code be proposed? And it is legal that that the city considers a code change and has, if we want a contracted planning consultant to look at it, like this, that's fine, and then if we feel, or that consultant feels there's any legal questions, we could bring it to our attorney after that, if there were any legal questions. And then I wanna point out that, I have frequently spoken to council members and mayors at these conferences about planning, and it doesn't require a planner to make a code change. Quite often, you can look at model code, I think I've shared this before, and propose it. In fact, there are some folks at Hood River County that want to share some model code with me, that like, why reinvent the wheel? And then you would take it to somebody like Chinook or our attorney to make sure that it was not in violation of other things, so having said all that, and having looked at Chinook Leadership Institute online and some good reviews, and that the person supplying the quote is familiar with Cascade locks and our code, I am in favor of the $750, up to $750 Chinook Institute.
Councilmember Keller?
I feel like we need a motion before we have discussion.
Oh, sorry,
Is that right?
That is correct.
That is
okay,
correct.
I apologize.
So is there a motion to accept one of these?
I motion-
Or WSB?
I motion to approve the quote from Chinook Institute to assist in amending chapter 8-6.148.020 of the Community Development Code.
Second that.
Okay, discussion.
Sorry, I previously said, do I need to repeat it? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, I think there are plenty of templates out there, like from the city of Estacada and others, that we could review on our own and choose what is right and send that to our city attorney and save the $750. So I think there's plenty for us to work with, and I mean, we're having work sessions, so let's use these work sessions.
Thank you, Councilman Miller, for that, because I'd like to see us do that on some codes. At this point, I appreciate that this bid says, I'm concerned that I don't see a definition, and therefore I'd like to incorporate an hour or two more. Because I am not in a place yet to make sure that what we might take from model code isn't conflicting with other codes we have, and I'm presuming that this person would do that until such time as we make, as Councilman Keller mentioned, we make large code changes. If we're doing one code change, I like a paid consultant to make sure we're not in violation of other codes.
And then also, Jordan,
On that point about the definition, I did not, when we originally sent this quote, I did not send him the full CDC, just a small section that we wanted reviewed. So I believe there actually is a definition of the temporary retail service activity. I think you wanted to review that, so. And make sure it fits into what we're doing.
so, and then I want to remind council that, Jordan, myself, Brad and Jeremiah had a meeting on this a few weeks ago when we met. About a month ago, and the court did offer up to, they had consulted with their attorney, their court attorney said it would be like 2100-ish, somewhere like that. And the court would be willing to pay that and partner with the city. And they know we're very limited on funds. So, I don't wanna, is Jeremiah, and he's not on, so, but I don't wanna assume, but they would have to take it out of a different bucket if it's not being paid for from the attorney, but they do have they have the ability to grant us the money, basically bottom line. So we wouldn't, so it's not a matter of us spending
that they're able to grant us.
They have economic development funds that are very flexible.
Right. So, so council, I'm happy.
I was just gonna say, John Morgan, the Chinook Institute is involved with, the port and their, strategic plan as well, and he has a history with the city of Cascade Locks, he's got prior experience as a city administrator, he's well versed in, this kind of work. At first, when I saw these two numbers, I thought, one of these is completely out, because we have a $700 quote, and another one for $11,000 to $22,000, one of them doesn't really understand the scope of what we're asking for. But I feel like, yeah, after, learning a little bit more about the Chinook Institute, you know, what they're proposing would meet the needs of what we asked them to do at a very reasonable rate.
Councilmember Farrell, you had your hand up. Did you?
No, I don't have any problem with this. I think we should go with who can help us right away with, a lower amount of money and get it done the way we need to have it done. I'm all for looking at other cities and trying to do a copy and paste, but I think that might take longer because we may not be able to do the copy and paste the way that it needs to be done, and then we'll have to go back and we'll be going back and forth. So that's where I am with it.
And again, this does need to go through the planning commission. They'll be the first step and approve it, and then it will come to council for final approval.
Councilmember Miller?
And if you were going to use money from the port, then we're going to have to amend the motion. Because your motion here is to accept the money that's to spend that money. So if you're getting money from the port to pay for it, you cannot use this motion.
Councilmember Happy?
I think the motion is to approve the quote. Doesn't specify how we're paying for it.
Any other comments, questions?
How soon can Chinook Institute, do this? I know I've seen from the community in places that, and people want this to happen yesterday.
It'll still take probably 2 months. If somebody needs to go through the process with planning commission, needs to have public hearings, come to the council, it'll still probably about 2 months.
But Chinook is prepared to step up and get it done and not kick the can down another 6 months.
But our process is what extends it.
Correct, yes, there is a process that the state requires us to follow.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, there's been a motion, there's been a second, there's been discussion. It's a roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emily Baker,
I,
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No,
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right, that passes for Chinook Institute. 752 on updating the Article B Development Review, Chapter 8, 6.148.020. All right. Is approved, creation of temporary charter review committee. And before we go into discussion, Ms. Tiffany Pruitt, you're on 7C, or wait, I'm on 6C. Yep, thank you, hang on. They're organized. Thank you. Approved creation of temporary charter review committee. Jordan, you're up.
At the July 24th, 2023 council meeting, it was council consensus that City Administrator Bennett began a process to review the city charter. Administrator Bennett met with City Recorder Woodward to discuss how it was handled in the past. The city has traditionally set up a temporary charter review committee. The last time one was convened was in 2010. Under council procedure rules 10.3 section B, I have asked the mayor to convene a new temporary charter review committee of 7 members with a council of 2 members. Attached is are the statement, purpose, timeline, and requested size of the committee per council committee rules. My plan is to work with the committee to review the charter, remove any areas that may be gray or ill-defined, and review the possibility of changing the requirements and all new or changes to taxes, fees, and charges for the vote of the people. The committee will present any proposed changes to council. Assuming council approves them, any change to charter must go to a vote of the people before it is ratified. I'm proposing to this goes to the vote of the people during the 2024 general election. This means we would need to have a ballot submission to the county by August 16th, 2024. If council approved the creation of the committee, council need to determine the recruitment process. In the proposed job description of the temporary charter review committee, the purpose of the City of Cascade Locks Temporary Charter Review Committee is to review and evaluate the city's charter and make recommendations to the city council of the City of Cascade Locks and any changes or additions to the charter. A strong review and evaluation of the restriction on council to imposing new or changing any taxes, fees, or charges without board approval is a priority of the committee. Duration: the temporary charter review committee will remain in service until recommendations are presented to council or until May 31st, 2024. This timeline provides sufficient time for council to hold public hearings and city staff to prepare ballot paperwork for the county by the August 16th, 2024 deadline. Membership: the City of Cascade Locks Temporary Charter Review Committee shall be made up of 7 members of residents of Cascade Locks. The quorum of the committee shall consist of 4 members present at the meetings.
Okay. So what we need is a motion, and second, then we'll go into discussion.
I motion to approve the creation of the temporary charter review committee.
I have a second. Discussion. Councilman Miller?
Yeah, as Ms. Pruitt spoke about earlier, any changes to the charter, especially if there's just one change, and I assume there is just one change because that's all that's mentioned in here. This can be done by council itself and submitted to the voters. We don't need a whole committee to do this unless there is something that is trying to be also put in there, of which every single change to the charter would have to be a different ballot measure. Because you cannot vote on multiple things under one item. So unless there's anything else that needs to be identified in here as needs to be changed in the charter, and we're only changing one, we don't need a committee, we can do that ourselves and submit it.
I'm kind of on that same topic. That's what I was wondering, is the committee going to go line through line of the charter, or are we going to give them some direction on different areas besides the one that's kind of strong armed in here? How are they?
So yes, they would go line by line, essentially a fresh perspective of non-council members reviewing it, anything that may seem odd, confusing to them as outsiders looking in.
And are we supposed to, besides this one that's on here, are we supposed to be giving them our input of things that, like if I found something that I would like them to?
No, they would have their input, they would give it to council, and then council would do whatever they want.
I'd like to recommend that we remove the second sentence there about the strong review and evaluation restriction on council and approves new or changes. Any taxes, fees, or charges without voter approval is priority committee. I feel like we really should be not giving them that direction. That's my personal, that we want a charter review because it hasn't been reviewed in 13 years. And that's what we want the committee to do. But I guess that's my recommendation, is that we give them free rein to review the charter and make the recommendations to council.
You wanna, any other discussion?
How do we, if we were to go this route, how do we get the members?
Well, I would like to be a nice, a mix of committee members, and we would put out a advertisement, and anybody who's interested in it, and then also come up with individuals as well. And then council would vote on it.
try and get a good cross-section of the
Mhm.
residents, yeah.
Mhm.
But they would have to be residents of the city.
Mhm.
For how long?
I think it's 1 year, actually, I don't know about committees, what that is, but kind of like 1 year. I mean, you guys could set that as a standard for the committee.
I wonder, as we're looking now for another planning committee person and, at least 2 tourism committee people in our small town, I am seeing that, our current standing committees have 7 members, with the exception of planning, which has 5. Is there a reason we need 7 and not 5, like planning?
Allows for a larger, cross-section of residents and easier to get a quorum.
Easier?
Easy.
Those people are absent.
Or
Oh, I see, absent,
Mhm.
okay. Um, okay. I like the idea of this committee. I do think it probably we should remove, I agree, if we're not meant to have input, then we need to remove any direction there. But it seems odd that we don't have input because every committee is, guided by city council. So would we not have goals coming?
Well, I mean, they could spend a year doing this and in one meeting, you all could say, I disagree, and change, put in whatever you want. I mean, so that's where your powers come from, so you don't have to listen to anything, say. It's
But they
just,
don't-
this is how you get resident participation. To get other people's point of view, beyond these 7 members.
But they can come and ask for direction. So if they need a direction, or if they're confused on something, they can always come to council and ask for direction. And more input.
Because, on page 12 of our current, city recorder council rules, it says a committee should propose goals to the council at least once a year, committees. And that counts, I didn't see that, I was thinking it said that council should give them goals. Committee standing. Okay,
I'm happy. Which sentence did you want out?
Under purpose, the final sentence, a strong review and evaluation, of the restriction on council that impose new or change any taxes, fees, or charges without voter approval is a priority of the committee. I suggest removing that from
To
the,
that whole last sentence.
I feel like it's, important that the committee be allowed free rein to review the charter and make recommendations without
Okay. Do you
any
wanna,
pressure from council.
amend your?
I don't know, I mean, this was the temporary charter review committee proposed job description. I think what we've got a motion for is to create a temporary charter review committee. I would expect we would, this is proposed, but would we get another opportunity to review this and approve it before we actually send it out? After we've decided to form the committee?
I don't believe so, no. I have to double check that.
So do we just need maybe consensus from council on language for the job description?
Yeah, we can do that.
How does council feel about removing a strong review and evaluation of the restriction of council to impose new or change any taxes, fees, or charges without voter approval is a priority of the committee?
I'm fine with that.
Pardon me?
I'm fine with that.
Everybody good with that? Okay, but everything else looks good?
I did,
Can we add the 1 year requirement for the committee? I mean, it just makes, if you can't be on council without being here for a year, then how are you,
Residency.
yeah, how are you supposed to be able to input on city charter if you haven't spent time here?
That would be consistent in what
Yeah, well, what we already have is
Right.
other requirements for things.
Councilman Happy.
I just want to ask, is that consistent with the requirements for membership on the other committees? I think that, like, this committee shouldn't be any different from tourism or anything else. And if there isn't a 12-month requirement for planning or tourism, then there should not be a requirement on this committee.
That's
This,
good.
this is also, those are standing committees, not temporary committees, and there's a specific purpose in mind. And like, yes, a brand new resident who just moved here today might have great insights, but their insights are not based off their experience of Cascade Locks, they're based off of where they came from, which may be beneficial, but some ideas don't translate into such a small community of Cascade Locks as they do from other places.
Marilyn, did you have knowledge on other committees if there's any requirements?
It's a 1 year in residency.
Okay, so 1 year investments. Does that answer your?
Yes, so
Question?
that, as long as we're doing, I think we just have to be consistent with the requirements, so
Okay.
it sounds like that's something that needs to be added then.
Okay, so remove those couple sentences, add the 1 year residency requirement.
Just make sure that everything's in line with what we already do.
Right,
It's- it-
okay.
Are there any other restrictions on who can apply? For example, if someone's on the tourism committee, can they do this? Or do you want people that have absolutely no?
That's up to you all. Overlap on committees, I don't think is specifically stated anywhere.
I don't.
I know the council can't, obviously.
Right.
So, like planning commission,
Right. Well, it's as a council and mayor, we figure out who's gonna be on the committee.
We
So
still have to
there's-
approve everybody that,
so please let those who want to apply, apply. As long as they
Absolutely,
got the 1 year residency.
absolutely. So if somebody's on one committee, on tourism, and I don't wanna, detour them or, tell them they can't be on another committee. So it's just, I would like, if it's open to everybody. Open to apply.
and then if we have more than enough applicants, then we can pick and choose, but if we only have
Sure.
7 people, then there are 7 people.
Then we get 7 people.
So what happens if we don't get 7 people?
Mhm.
We don't have a problem. I
Hopefully.
mean, as long as there's 4 members, there's a quorum.
Cross that bridge when we get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as there's 4, there's a quorum.
Because it does say in our documents, we can choose 5 to 7,
Correct.
and if there were 3, it would be a quorum of 5.
Well, it depends on what you set the membership at. If you set the membership at 5 and 3 is a quorum, if you set it at 7, 4 is a quorum.
Right, so it's just one more, I guess, but. Okay, and it does say, should we feel that the city voice needs to be heard, that the mayor may appoint a city liaison or representative in 10.2 to facilitate communication between the relevant committee and the council and represent the city's interests as determined by a majority of the council. So there is time to do that as well.
Okay, there's been a motion, there's been a second, and we've had discussion.
Can I hear the amended motion?
I don't think we amended the motion. The motion is to approve the creation of temporary charter review committee.
Okay. We amended the job description.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emily Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Happy,
I,
Keller, Miller,
No,
Mayor Fowler.
Aye. All right, that passes. We'll take the creation of temporary charter review. Next up, appointment to tourism committee. Karen, well. Everyone had, council had an opportunity to see her application. Any comments, concerns, non-concerns? A vote or a motion to accept? Just appoint, can I just? All right, I can appoint. Any concerns?
Yeah, the council has approved that.
I appreciate her past experience with an international sculpture symposium, destination downtown, and a goal to learn about and create events in supporting our Native American community and history as well as promoting music, art, and cultural events. And I saw that the Travel Oregon conference this year talked a lot about cultural tourism. So that is a tourism thing.
So just a consensus of council, everybody in favor of Karen?
Yeah.
Okay, Karen's on tourism. Okay. So reports and presentation. 7A, committee reports for tourism. None, or there is tourism.
There is.
Tourism shall. Good evening.
All right, well, thank you all for having me here tonight to talk to you about tourism. I know in our agreement, we had said that I would come in quarterly. I know some of you were pretty eager to hear what's been going on because it's been a while, so in future presentations, these will be on the calendar and actually in the packet, not last minute. Since, again, there's been some people want some updates, I'm gonna talk. So since we've been doing the tourism, there has not been a quorum for a meeting. So, Jordan has approved the few minor expenses that we, just sustained, and we've had conversations amongst committee members to make sure that we're still in following with what everyone feels is best for now. It's been a lot of just sustaining previous commitments, just, you know, maintaining agreements with, existing advertisers and renewing our Chamber of Commerce memberships, like the really basic, like low, small amount stuff, pre-printing brochures. So far, we've managed to do the full technical transition and get everything moved over to where I can access it. That was probably the most time-consuming part of the transition, was getting the email access and the social media access and the website. I've also gone through background research of the transit lodging tax administration at the city level. One of the interesting things about Cascade Lodge Tourism is that we've had TLT for a really long time, longer than the state of Oregon's had rules in place about it. So our policies are all grandfathered in. So you can't just Google TLT rules Oregon to know what our tourism is allowed to do. You have to actually, you know, talk to Kathy and get the rules. So I've gone through and I've made some onboarding documents for the committee members. Those will go through at the next meeting on December 4th, hopefully, when we will have a forum. And we'll get to review those together. I did attach a little quick start guide that has the bullet point rules for being on the tourism committee with the report. I've gotten to talk to all of the committee members and gotten to know everybody, and I think we're gonna work well together. I've also gotten to work with the regional networks. The Columbia Gorge Tourism Alliance did a photo shoot this past Friday for their accessible board resource, which is really great to have stock footage of people in Cascade Locks with disabilities that can be used in advertising. That's gonna be a good resource. And then speaking of the Tourism Alliance, they're having their planning meeting for the year, for the 2024 year this Thursday at Gorge's here, and that is open to the public. Anyone who would like to attend that and is interested in tourism can go. And that's usually a really great meeting to go to get to know other people who work in tourism, and it's where a lot of the big collaborative projects come from. Like I said, I've been administering and maintaining the current applications that we have. We've renewed the, we did a reprint on the Multnomah Falls kiosk, with a 6-month update for the, off season, so, that's all set up and printed and live at Multnomah Falls. We've done our distribution renewals and, gotten into the social media. There's, you know, lots of stuff on Instagram and Facebook now. And then we've also identified some new opportunities to support local businesses. For example, any lodging that collects TLT is eligible to be in the Oregon, the Travel Oregon Visitor Guide. Only 3 of our lodging organizations are listed in there, so there's a service gap there, making sure people know how to get that free listing. And that's an internationally distributed piece of advertising, so we're offering technical support for that to our local lodging operators to make sure that as many as who want to take advantage of that can. And then, upcoming, once we start getting into meetings, I'm looking forward to getting some, getting them back to business. I'd love to see a joint work session for the council and the committee to do some visioning and some strategy planning. I have all of the end of season data from running the visitor center all summer that I'll be happy to provide some graphs for you once I get to really, fiddle with the numbers. And then I look forward to advertising and hiring that full-time position and, helping to identify and apply for some of those grant applications that we've been sitting on for a while and see what we can do to move forward.
Did you redo the ad, falls?
Did I
Redesign the ad?
So we worked with Annie Van Donlen to do the graphic design for that. I just facilitated the administrative side of it.
Perfect. But it was tiny or something.
Yeah, the only thing that changed was, let's see, part of the board signaling is a seasonal business, so they're only paid for 6 months on the ad. So that was all of us, was changing out that one spot.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Thank you. You've been doing a lot in a new position there. Appreciate that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Under reports and presentation, river garbage. This is better not. Thank you for the invitation.
Sure, good evening, Mayor, members of council, thanks for your time tonight on the agenda. I'm here before you, as I historically am, every year discussing rates, proposed rates, consumer price index, and how that affects us at the river garbage. In your packet, you can see what I'm doing region-wide. The CPI was posted at 3.12%, an 85% increase of that would be 2.65%. And that is what the Wasco County landfill has been approved to increase their gate rate by. I'm gonna go off script a little bit this year and not ask for approval on that increase. I'm gonna flash back a little bit to August 27th, talk about the CART program that you approved. Once again, I want to state that was not a CART program that we brought to the council. We were asked for that information years ago. Seemed to be a disconnect within the city when the carts rolled out as to whose program it was. We facilitate it, we manage the carts, and we make it work on our end of it. The carts hit the ground in August. The logistics crew started delivering August 27th. And by that following Monday, August 28th, 98% of the residents in Cascade blocks had their carts. I felt that it wasn't fair to increase the rate of the $4 for the month of September, because not everybody had the cart, and there were some folks that got the wrong size of cart. So it took us a couple weeks, and personally, I was the one moving the carts around and getting them relocated where they needed to be and redelivered. Since then, it seems it's been pretty smooth. So the increase started on October 1st, which was the first month that the residents saw the $4 increase for the carts. I want to thank the city and working with Sheldon for providing us a piece of property down off Herman Creek to store the carts while we're getting out, delivering and moving them around a little bit. A couple other things to talk about. We mailed out 403 vouchers for cleanup that were allowing residents to come to the transfer station at Hood River, because we're unable to do the cleanups as we have in the past, because the treatment facility does not allow for our drop boxes in there during construction the way we need to be. Out of the 403 sent, 70 were turned in, so we have about 17–18%. Don't know how many repeaters we had, but that was the number we had in total. And I think that's pretty much. And then the other thing we did offer too was a drop box we had up here at City Hall. residents that want to get rid of their old trash cans that were no longer needed, we're welcome to throw them in the box. Of which they all made sure they were full before they threw them in the box.
Well,
That was part of it. We're fine with that, you know, it's all about being community partners. And I think that's why it's important not to increase the rates this year. You know, the one thing I did look at was commercial rates. But then when I started drilling down into who does what in the city, you know, a lot of the proprietors in the commercial arena are also residents that were impacted by that increase of $4. So I didn't feel to double dip on them just because they're running a business was fair either. But if there's any questions or if I let anything out, by all means.
Well, I really want to thank you. I know there was some confusion with a resident here about the cost was gonna go up because of a road, and I know I talked to Jordan and he called you and you went out and you just handled it beautifully and made everything okay. And so I really appreciate your time and understanding with that.
No, maybe there are gonna be hiccups, you know, and the best thing we can do is just stay calm and get the garbage service and figure out the logistics and details later. No one had an increase because of the cards, other than the initial $4.
Right, and I wanna appreciate my appreciation for the team or whoever came, because I watched them, they were at a dead run.
Pretty cool.
And they were going through, and they were running from house, they were so incredibly efficient, and, I mean, the person would put the cart in front of your house, and they'd take a picture of it, and I know that there was a couple that didn't get them, or they did some, but they're logistically, I mean, it was really smooth for how many carts. I just saw what came through my neighborhood, and I was, man, I don't know how logistically we planned for that, but
Keep track of 800 in a day.
yeah, so, but my hat's off to you, and you guys handled it beautifully, and
I'll let the ones know that actually did that part of it.
yeah, so I was, we were all standing out there, we're like, wow, I don't know how they're doing it, but they were kind, courteous, prompt, they answered questions. They actually stopped and they didn't make you feel like, yeah, you didn't have time, but they answered the questions, but no problems
Good
whatsoever.
to hear.
I do know there's one can that's been tipped over on its side and.
Right down in Forest Lane,
Yeah.
606 or 610.
Yeah.
I went to the house and knocked on the door. I can see
Okay.
the 35-gallon trash cart is in the carport.
Okay,
I had my office manager reach out and
okay,
call them. It's their cart. I don't know if they know that, or
okay,
if they're just not willing to participate, and if they don't want to participate, I'll take the cart because it's
Okay.
an asset. So.
I keep
that was
passing
still
by.
all
okay.
I got that one.
Well, thank you
Sure.
appreciate that.
Anything else, Ruby?
couple of questions, so on the increase looking at your spreadsheets and stuff. So you just went down and the increase went down on went up on everything, right, is that?
That's normally how we do it, yeah.
Okay, it just seemed
Yeah.
odd to me if someone has a non-sufficient fund or delinquent fee that obviously they can't afford it as it was, and then you're increasing it, but
He's not increasing.
So they would have been increased based on the previous year's numbers. And these have just been rolling over since 2007 or 8.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
everything gets the same increase of the 2.65.
okay. My other question was, I'm having incredible issues with my bill, which I'm not gonna go into here. But one of the things that the person I spoke to mentioned, would be, she said to put duct tape my number, on the can. Are we not allowed to use permanent markers? I mean, the can's gonna stay with whoever would buy my house when I left, right?
No, they don't. So let's say you're gonna move out on your last day, you want your bill cycled in November 30th. November 31st, we're gonna remove the card. We gotta wait for
Oh,
the
you
new
have to
red,
wait.
we gotta, yeah, and clean it. Everyone starts with fresh cards. So if it's a billing issue, I can handle that with you offline. But if you wanna write your address on the card, do it on the inside of the lid with permanent marker. That way it's not visible to the outside, so if yours is 737 Forest Lane and it lands at, 1500 Windsong, well, we can look under the lid, okay, it's gonna move to Windsong.
Her, not to take a lot of time, but her issue was that she thought someone else was using my can so that's why she wanted it marked.
Right.
Would that still work under the lid?
Sure, what it is, people sending extras out.
Yeah,
If we roll up to your house and we take a picture of the cart and the bags that are next to it. And show you that that's your address and your card number, and then you can say, well, those are my extras.
okay,
Well, then we do it a different way, we put our police caps on and investigate and find out whose trash it is.
okay, thank you.
Any other?
I just wanted to say, do you have the truck that gets in now? Are you noticing that your, waste management service providers are feeling more relief on their backs
So-
again?
It's a catch-22, the carts are a slower system. Every time, as opposed to grabbing 2 cans and going to the back of the truck. So we still have the old school trucks, you know, $4 a month, that gives us a new truck at 468,000. But they do use the tippers, and that's the key piece.
To not,
We have a truck that is only for the tippers. And we have another truck that comes down and starts on the west end of town with the containers. By the end of his day, he meets up with the other guys, and then you gotta use the rear load truck. It still has the tippers, it's just not as fast. So
but
yeah, wear and tear is reduced, absolutely.
And then we had a question I would like from the audience, but I'd really like the public kind of would to fill out a form if you have questions about something on the agenda, otherwise it starts popcorning. So
My apologies.
that's okay.
Wait, do you have any plans on updating the website to reflect, better reflect what services you're providing in Cascade Locks?
We've talked to our webmaster, and we're having a difficult time doing it with the 3rd tab. Based on Hood River County, City of Hood River, and now Cascade Lock the cards, but yes, we're working on that.
Right.
Well, I just wanted to say thanks. What, just the things you've done to support our community, the concerns that were brought forward by the community regarding the disposal of the old cans, and you guys jumped right on that, and I really appreciate that. And again, it just really speaks to the integrity of, supporting our community. And again, I was looking at our agenda tonight, and saw in here, we're talking about rate increases, I'm like, and you must have been reading my brain, and just the way that you went off script, it says we're not gonna do an increase because you guys just kind of that $4, so thanks, you guys have been a good partner.
Any other comments from Mr. Winterbottom?
Great, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, next, 7C, this is where, Mr.
Does he have a report to give first? Yeah, I gotta read my report.
Oh gosh, Richard.
Yep, so it's synopsis of the October 23rd, 2023 council meeting, council requests city administrator Bennett. The city attorney Cleveland's take on the purchase and profit which acquired home and gift basket, and if it violated any city policies or procedures. After laying out the process of the basket materialized and was purchased, attorney Cleveland concluded that it was not a routine reimbursable expense because it was not linked to a council member's accommodations with other incidental travel costs. So the purpose of the expense was the promotion of city and goodwill on behalf of the city to support the Oregon Mayor's Association. The city administrator and mayor discussed the expense before the purchase occurred at the city administrator, and the city administrator approved the expense coming out of the tourism fund. The city administrator has the authority to approve purchase, including tourism up to $2,500. According to city attorney Cleveland, the Olmec gift basket should be treated as a tourism expense approved by the city administrator and the mayor, with the mayor acting on behalf of the city in compiling a plethora of goods to showcase our city. Therefore, there is no issue in reimbursing the mayor for her efforts in promoting our goods.
Now, Tiffany, you're you're up.
Just
Thank you.
before I get started, it would be nice if this would be where the speaker could see all of the council, because I really feel like.
We're doing the best we can. Space maker, Tiffany, this is Pruitt, you're up.
I always feel like you're looking in the back of my head or my ear. And I don't know,
You're up.
I don't think it's exactly.
Okay, yours are clean.
Okay, so here's a remarkable thing. I think it's time for this attorney to be replaced. The attorney works with citizens by making sure that the council follows the rules, not to protect the council from the bad choices that they make. For months, this council wrestled with the correctness of a form for the public to have access to the community funds money yet. And here we are again, once again, saying that the council can do whatever they want. There are no rules for them. Even when the public has to apply to use public funds, the council doesn't. However, council procedures clearly state on section 14.1. Councilors will follow the same rules and procedures for reimbursement as those which apply to city employees as established by city policy. Councilor expenditures for other than routine reimbursable expenses must require advanced council approval according to the purchasing rules which apply citywide. Nowhere in this document or in any other document does it state that council can spend up to $2,500 of tourism's money with or without their approval. Department heads have spending limits too. Do you get to spend their money as well without their approval? And that the city administrator is not on the council. This is the council. That is not the council. He does what you say, not the other way around. At the beginning of this year, I asked you to be careful and not put a target on your back, which is a figure of speech, not to draw attention to yourself with bad decision making. Unfortunately, you continue to do things wrong. You strain a gnat to swallow a fly. The gnat being the citizens. You wanted to change the council procedures to limit people's speaking time to address council, while at the same time completely refuse to hold yourselves accountable and follow the rules. Why even have council procedures? Again, the mayor had 2 months to get this basket together and go through the proper procedures. Instead, she chose to wait until the day of or before doing anything. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission has been a quote I have never liked, but this council has time and time again modeled this quote. Your council lives would be so much easier if you would just follow the rules. You hired a code enforcer to make people follow ordinances, but you don't even follow council procedures. You're supposed to be the example of how to do it the right way. Instead, you expect us to follow your rules when you don't even do it yourself. Great leaders don't tell you what to do, they show you how it's done.
Okay, next, city administrator Bennett report.
Wait a minute, we're not done with this. You just stop with hers?
Oh, you're right. So any comments?
Yeah,
Okay,
I second,
comment.
what Ms. Pruitt said. And I find it unusual that our city attorney, when he gives decisions to us, before they all came on his letterhead, that this one didn't. And also, the decision that was rendered says this was not a routine reimbursable expense. So it refers back to 14.1. It had to come, and it says it must require advance council approval, must. That's a definitive action. It has to come to council. The basket was bought the week before a council meeting, but in that council meeting, it wasn't even brought up. The only time it was brought to council approval is when I read it in the bills, the checks. And that's how I got it identified. So it was not being brought forward to us at all. And to say the purpose of that basket was it was to support a policy or a reimbursement for the paper mayors to come. And that's something that's admirable. But the purpose of, because of that, you use tourism dollars. It wasn't tourism first. It was to pay for this, for mayor's expenses. So 14.1 still stands. I mean, the city of the attorney opinion on this has not changed anything. It's still as it is. It has to be according to 14.1.
Councilman Kelly.
I guess I'm confused here, Mr. Miller. You asked for the interpretation, you got the interpretation, now you're making the same argument that you asked to get the interpretation about, and we're spending ungodly minutes focused on this again. I don't understand what you want out of this.
It would be great if you would have answered the question, you did.
And I believe Mr. Bennett told us that this was gonna be the response that we're gonna get.
His interpretation was that it does not fall under section 14 of council procedures. That was his interpretation.
In this analysis, it did not say that.
Sorry, I guess it was implied, I didn't directly say it, my apologies.
Councilmember Happy.
I mean, it says pretty clearly, Attorney Cleveland concluded that this was not a routine reimbursable expense. Section 14.1 is for the reimbursable expenses for mayor and councilors, so he's saying right here that 14.1 does not apply. And again, I go back to that councilor workshop that we attended at the LOC conference, and this is not what we're supposed to be spending our time. We've got bigger issues, so that's all I want to say on this. I think we spent enough time on it. We asked for his opinion, he gave it.
Yeah.
I'd like to move on.
And I do trust our attorney's opinion. I'm glad we went there because, and maybe the caution for the future is that we have, that we city councilors or the mayor don't go make those tourism expenditures, because we do allow tourism to spend $2,500 without our permission.
Yes.
So that,
Okay.
yeah.
I have one question about this whole thing. How much was the basket cost?
Spent $250 and the value was $1,000 of the basket.
So $250 and we spent attorney time, which I'm sure exceeds $250 on this topic that it's just a drain. Maybe we don't do it this way in the future, but like, it's a dead horse beat. We should just move on.
Okay, any other discussion?
I was just gonna say, I think
Yeah.
Councilmember Miller, I think if I understand your issue with this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's just about making sure that we are. The power of the council is in the council, not any one of us, is that right?
That's true.
And what you're really asking for is that we follow council procedures and decisions should be made as a council, not unilaterally. Is that right?
Exactly, because this city council has, it's all honesty, in my opinion, has violated council procedures over and over again.
Let's stay on topic, let's just.
That is the.
Can we have consensus of council that we can split the basket to?
I wasn't.
Oh,
I was just gonna say that I think the key here though is it was an expense that was approved by city administrator. It wasn't something that the mayor went out and did on her own and then was saying that the city needed to pay for it. It was actually approved purchase by the city administrator, which follows the city's purchase in my office.
move on. All right, city administrator Bennett report.
So I put read only, or I guess put written only, I figured we'd be a lot later at this point. It's only 8:15, so yay on us.
Go ahead and read it.
So I can read it, it is pretty lengthy.
Go for it.
Regional Solutions Group meeting, Nate Stice, the Regional Solutions Coordinator for the North Central Region, hosted a meeting October 25th, focusing on Cascade locks. At this meeting, we have representatives from Senator Whiting and Merkley's offices, Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, Oregon Department of Transportation, Parks and Rec, which the Main Street program is underneath, Land Conservation Development, Health and Human Services, Environmental Quality, and Business Oregon. It was a very, very broad group that they got together. And that's the whole point of this regional solutions group, is to get the small cities like us access to these departments that help us get to our goals. The city report gave updates on the projects, plans, and issues they are facing. Below is a list of the topics I brought up regarding the city and feedback I got from the team. City Hall discussed the need / desire To renovate City Hall, my thoughts on multiple jurisdictional community civic center business ordinance stated there is possible funds for seismic retrofitting, but it's capped at $2.5 million. That cost, just for reminder, was estimated at about $2.5 million 5 years ago, so it's probably $5 million now. McCad was awarded a grant to complete a brownfield study. The city can submit a grant to McCad. This will allow the city to find exactly what materials and concerns are in the building. The funds can also be used to build a rock plan for an updated use of the building. I mentioned FEMA grant for the roof replacement and our long wait. Nate Stites is reaching out to his contacts at FEMA to see if we can get that moved forward. I have had contact with FEMA since I wrote this. They are wanting a request for more information. It's due tomorrow. Finishing up that report, send out in the morning. Strategic plan. I informed the group this, the city is in the final stages of completing our strategic plan. I shared a copy with all the participants. Discussed, a lot of the discussion focused on the plan, focused downtown revitalization. The group pushed the need to develop a strong Main Street network, and working with local businesses, staff the Main Street program and DLCD brought up Main Street revitalization grants, rehabbing old buildings or even acquiring land. The grant don't open until January 2025, so we have some time to plan before we apply for those grants. The brownfield study funds from McCade could also be used by local businesses as well. ODOT mentioned their Great Streets grant program to assist in developing a plan to incorporate the bikes and hiking trails throughout the town. There was discussion on federal lands access plan, FLAP. I need to do more research on it. I just love that acronym though, FLAP. The representative from ODOT heavily emphasized our need to do a transportation system plan. Our plan has not been done since 2001, and ODOT recommends it's done every 5 years. There was a grant that came up earlier this year. I just did not have the bandwidth to submit that grant. Talking to ODOT back then, this was back in March or April, it is a 2-year process. Going through that grant and updating the TSP, it is a long process. So I'm gonna double back, reach out to ODOT, DLCD, and McKen to figure out the best way to move forward and secure funding to get that done as soon as possible. They also recommend reaching out to the city of Hood River and discussing their urban renewal district and seeing if it's a good fit for Cascade Lux. I've already done that. They've sent me a lot of their paperwork, which I've been reviewing. I did give brief updates on the wastewater plant and the electrical system updates. No discussion of importance came from these updates, other than, EDA may have additional possible funding for the electrical system upgrade. I informed them of our most current pressing issue, the work being done at Cord Creek Bridge and our funding issues. They laid out our options and estimated costs. No grant funding options were discussed. The departments, that have funding or sway were going to do some digging on their end. The conclusion of the discussion was that a loan either through ODOT or McCad was the best route at this time. The loan through ODOT seems to be the best option. It will have a low interest rate with a long amortization schedule, allowing us to do low annual payments. And I did just get more information from them today, and I plan to present it at council in 2 weeks. So, more to come on that. So that's kind of the roundup of the major topics discussed at that meeting. The court spent most of their time talking about a possible housing development up above the Harvey Creek parking lot, the new parking lot they put in. So it'll be a development just below the new water tower. Joint meeting with the port. The joint meeting with the port is set for Wednesday, November 15th at 6 p.m. at the Gorge Pavilion. The port called that meeting and they will be staffed. The agenda we put out has the topics. There is no packet for it. It's just discussion between the port and the city. And as I said, they'll be running it, and our agenda has their Zoom link on it, so we are, so we're there. Tourism committee, part of this has been solved already. Only had 4 members, enough for a quorum. However, one of them is out of the country through, I guess not through Christmas, through about mid-December. They're back to not being able to meet. That's been resolved, but still somebody else calls out sick. They're not being able. So I'm just encouraging council to be proactive, recruit members. We need to have members on these committees, and now we're having another committee we're starting. So please recruit as much as you can.
Jordan, can they do a Zoom in order to get a quorum?
They can, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Janice, do you have that capability?
I have the capability that the person who's out of the country is, in a time zone that makes it really difficult to meet at a time when everyone's awake.
That is true, she's in France.
Yeah, that is hard.
Yeah, that's difficult. Planning Commission, Marie Miller has resigned from the Planning Commission. Staff has posted the vacancy on the website and on Facebook, and, we'll go in the next newsletter if the position is still open. We found out right after we finished writing the newsletter, so couldn't make it in this. Good Life Home Buyers, I reached out to Bonneville Power regarding the demand response program and Good Life. After much internal debate, the EPA has stated they have no interest in partnering with Cascade Locks or anyone else this time in demand response to that program. They're back to negotiating directly with Good Life Home Buyers. And the latest conversation I had with them is they're going to stay under 1 megawatt and at this time be a commercial account. But if that changes, I will update council. Wastewater facility, substantial completion of the wastewater facility upgrade occurred at the end of October. The startup of the plant went relatively smoothly. A few tweaks are being worked out. Engineers Anderson Perry and general contractor JW Feller are putting together a final report to council. I hope to have that for the next meeting as well. But they turned it on, I guess, really almost 6 weeks ago at this point, and they pretty much rebuilt that entire plant, and it turned on smoothly. A few hiccups, but everyone I talked to said it was probably about the easiest update they've done. So, at least in terms of turning it on, between all the systems, it's about a dozen different software programs talking to each other to get all these things done, and for the most part, it was very smooth. So we should be happy. EPA grants and port participation. The Port Commission has decided to not provide any additional financial support to our electrical system update project. I'm working with EKI engineers and the electric department staff to scale back the project and reaching out to EDA for possible tweaks to the scope of work and additional funding. I hope to have more details present to council at the next council meeting or in December.
After hours.
It's a good one. My apologies there. Yeah. Public Works after hours zone. I wanted to address some of the concerns brought up at the last meeting regarding Public Works after hours. Remember, we did our best to inform all partners of our office hours switch. Hood River Dispatch may have been a miscommunication or missed accidentally. I don't know the history. I'm not sure why Hood River Dispatch is the after hours for Public Works, but I am exploring options to replace it. Looking at what is used by the electric utility, but it's an old, archaic, inefficient system. If you call the number, it prompts you to leave a message, and then Derek, our electric staff, gets essentially a push notification, and he listens to the message, and then will, if he has time, call the person back or go check it out. It's very archaic. So I'm looking at other options. Former administrator Zimmerman had looked at a call center, but they're astronomically expensive, which is not in our budget at this time. So I am looking at hopefully updating a little bit. We did get new phones with our IT update and seeing if that's something we can use. So. McCord Creek Bridge, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, our current best option to fund the work at McCord Creek Bridge is a loan through ODOT. I'm working with OTIP to gather in details for the council for approval to allow project to move forward. Let's see here. Hood River Sheriff's Office. After 3 consecutive months of the Sheriff's Office being below the 24-hour per week minimum of coverage in Cascade blocks listed in our contract, I contacted the Sheriff's Office regarding the concern. Sheriff English agreed that they had not met their end of the contract. The short-term remedy will be the sheriff, their finance office, and myself will work together to determine a billing credit for the hours not served. The sheriff is already addressing the long-term solution and has several deputies completing or entering Oregon Law Enforcement Academy this fall. I'm not going to divulge the numbers publicly, but they are short-staffed. Yes.
Did he happen to say like how long it takes him to get through the academy? Like
He did not. I think from my general knowledge, I want to say 3 months, it's not a quick thing. But I could be wrong. Finance reports. One thing I didn't mention is the ballpark figure kind of rolling in everybody's head is about 1 month worth of credit for the bill, so $7,600. So they're gonna fine tune that number, but it should be around there.
And then also the next months to come while we're waiting for?
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Finance reports, contracted CFO Carl Bondi has provided revenue and expense reports through, actually is September. I wrote this, I had September, I got October numbers about 10 minutes before I put this packet out to you guys. So we have updated expense and revenue numbers for the city. So we're updating. They were provided the packet for review. Staff were able to have a full understanding of their department's finances, plan for the rest of the year and next. Yes,
So does that mean the reconciliation is returned?
yes, yep, bank reconciliations are done, everything, we are up to date.
And then audit,
Audit is, yes, we didn't have this in there, audit is moving forward, they have a deadline, Carl and Angela, our county clerk, have a deadline of November 20th to get them a handful of documents, and do kind of what they call their field work, is to kind of. They have multiple clients, and essentially they turn back to us and focus on us for a week to do their business. They're expecting end of December, early January to finish the 21-22 audit. And then they'll roll right into the 22-23 audit. And by the time that is done, we'll be ready to start the 23-24 audit. So we're coming along. We just with all the turnover and within the finance department, it's been making sure we get all the right documents.
I had a question about the McCord Creek Bridge.
Yep.
Have we reached out to Representative Helfrich as well?
I have not. I did an email and a phone call, but it's been a while and I have not reached back.
So you did reach out, you just haven't heard.
I have not heard back, but it has been a couple weeks, and again, I wasn't banking on a Hail Mary from a state rep, so I was chasing them with,
No,
sure,
absolutely.
if we have to, we will get a loan. I'd rather not, but
No, I think I really think we need to put the responsibility back in ODOT for relocating
agree.
the
Yeah.
the utility.
And I guess
For
I'm gonna leave that on, I mean, I'll do mine, but that's kind of more of a political, your guys' end of putting the pressure on your fellow politicians.
Did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, well, if you wanna make it, on the political end, I think we should retain Mark Johnson to work on this for us. He is very knowledgeable about Salem. He works down there, you know, to the port, and I think, we could put him on retainer to help us with this. We may walk away with having to pay less money.
Yeah.
And getting grants, so.
I wonder would it be possible to have just a fact sheet, what we want? Because at McCad meeting, we just went to an LSC, meeting some of the Salem politicians. They suggested what you just said. Everybody on council who has the opportunity to speak to anybody at the county or state level, even federal level, needs to do so, to be heard. And so, is it possible to get a quick, I don't know, or do we type that up? Do I type it up and say, is this what we've chased down, what we're told we have to do, and
I mean, I can put that together, yeah, I don't think it'll be
Yeah,
a full page, but I can put something together.
just don't wanna take too much of your time, but so that we have the same information to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think that's a great idea, because oftentimes we find ourselves in these opportunities where we have these chances to have these meaningful conversations. But if we're not all on the same page and presenting the same message, they can become a little bit confused, so that I think would be really helpful. Do we have any idea of what, Mr. Johnson would require as far as retainer, how much is that?
We'd have to ask him.
We have, should we get some consensus on whether or not to move forward with that?
We can, get consensus to approach him and see what it is, and then bring it back to next council or.
Yeah, as soon as possible, yeah.
Whatever we can do to try to. I mean, what was the cheap end of this, like 800,000?
Cheap end, we're probably looking at 800,000 to $1 million, yeah.
So I think we gotta really work hard to try to put this back on ODOT, this is their construction project, we have an easement. They need to relocate our utilities.
And we've been to the
Hey,
county.
can I pause for a second? I wanna remind council that ask to be recognized when needs, because otherwise you start losing it, so. All right, thank you. Hang on, Mr. Councilman Keller had his hand
You
up.
should all be aware the short session begins in January, so if we want to contact these people while they're at their offices, and making these decisions with a incredible surplus in the rainy day fund, that's when we need to be doing this.
Councilmember Baker.
Have we, and you may have shared it and I've just forgotten, contacted the county since not only is this road our concern, it's a county road as well.
So it's a state road and it's in Multnomah County, I contacted their planning department, until we actually have a final design chosen, we're at a kind of a stopping point. Once we have a final design, whether we're gonna stay on the south side, go underground, stay on the north side, stay above ground. They can't really make a decision until we know what we're doing.
Because I do feel like I brought this up at one of the conferences and they said you need to be talking to your county folks too, to see where the money is.
Correct, yeah, this is a very strange one because A, it's Multnomah County, and B, it's in a national scenic area, which has a whole bunch of stipulations, you can't have the orange fencing, it has to be natural color fencing, all sorts of other random stuff.
So Gorge Commission, right, we do have a rep with Gorge Commission.
It's, yeah, the national scenic area guidelines,
Right,
yeah.
so I might reach out once we get that document, because I met somebody at the Gorge Commission said, we help you with national scenic area concerns.
Just gonna ask you via the fact sheet, will you outlay the different options as far as, pie in the sky?
Yes, yeah.
Ultimate fix versus
Yeah.
temporary band-aid to
Yeah,
get
oh,
the construction
Yeah,
out
I'll have
there.
all that issues with Multnomah County and with scenic gorge area and all that.
I know I didn't sign up, but I can't add to this conversation, just real quick, Jeff Helfrich will be at the PCP meeting this Thursday. So if there's anything that you can get to me that I can hand off to him, yeah, I'd be more than glad to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, any others? Let's go to, mayor and city council for comment.
I was gonna, just
Oh, I'm sorry.
one, is there a point where we wanna have a deadline before we start doing all ditch efforts, like putting this in the paper and putting in the media too, because right now it doesn't help us to blast it everywhere, because if it can be done without smearing anybody's
Right.
face in it, then that's better, but if push comes to shove, we should not take it off the table either. But is there like a timeline that we have when's our drop dead date for this?
The work is supposed to be done by October 31st, 2024.
Yes.
They want, depending on which route we go, we decide to essentially temporarily move it, put it back underneath how it is, they need to know. They said the end of this year, but there is some wiggle room so they can finalize their design to put the conduit back underneath the bridge.
So we need to know yesterday.
Yes, pretty much. So I've reached out to engineers to provide a more detailed estimate of costs, present to you all, and again, hopefully sooner than later.
My suggestion, I guess, with council consensus is that if we don't get any feedback from our elected representatives in state or house, then after the short session or during, partway through the short session, we should start making noise. Because if we have to have this done, we basically have to have it done before then. With our plans, then we kind of need to know something's gonna happen, because we don't have, alone for this is just penalizing us as a city for providing power.
And it is in pretty good route.
Yeah,
What if Multnomah Falls didn't have power?
exactly.
Not good. Yeah. And or all the other
Or
residents in.
all the other people that would lose power, and not just, there's a lot of people that live in that section and
Mhm.
In a popular campground.
public campground. And state park and the lodge and,
Okay. Now they're pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to mayor and city council comments. I'm happy, would you like to start?
I'll start. Just wanted to start out by saying thank you to Ms. Wildman. Thank you for coming, and I think that there's some, I just want to comment about, if people, anybody in the city has concerns about, open manholes or drainage from construction sites. The right course of action, the place where you can get the quickest action is just to reach straight to the city. Bringing that to any, city, councilor or mayor, really, we don't have any ability to affect any change. All I'm gonna do is pass along to the city administrator. So the best course of action to get quick responses is to reach directly out to city staff. Ms. Pruitt, thank you for your comment about the charter amendment and regarding taxes and fees. I really value your input. You're very smart and you're very involved in the budgeting process as well. You understand both sides of the issue. And Mr. Ramos, I'm really impressed with, was that your student?
Yeah, they did it on their own group though.
Yeah, no, I just think it was great to see Mr. Ramos present for our last council meeting. And that they, I think there's a lot of misconception about local government and how it doesn't affect people, but as Mr. Ramos saw, the discussions that we've had here does have direct impact on the people in our community. So I applaud your students for being here to participate in the council meeting and observe it, and then follow up with a letter. So just really wanted to pass it along. So that's great. Scrim, thank you for your report. You said this is what you're gonna do, and it's nice to see it, and I appreciate you keeping this up to date. And that's really all I've got to say. I guess my last comment was just about, when I read through the minutes, there's a lot of comments during the city councilor's comments about thanking city staff for what they do to support council. But I think that one of the best ways that we as council can support city staff is by not getting distracted and forgetting our place and what our purpose is on council. Our purpose is to set a vision and direction for city staff, not necessarily get, bottled, into the nitty gritty details of how they go about doing it. So, I think that's important to remember. I think actions are more important than words, and we can thank city staff, but if our actions make their jobs more difficult, I don't think that that's really, I think it's a conflict that should be recognized.
Thank you. Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff for their work and for the participants who spoke for today. And also I just heard back from Mark, and he said that his retainer is $2,500 per month, but he could work out a scope of work that can accomplish something, so. I would imagine it would probably be about 2 months worth of work. But, so we have a ballpark figure in there. And that's all I got.
All right, Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, staff, thank you, participants, thank you to Hood River Waste Management, as we mentioned, for the complete report and working with our community. I want to say that several of us were here in Cascade Locks at the McKed meeting, made more contacts on Friday about looking for grants, and I think again, happy that we'll be going to the joint meeting. I spoke with, in that particular McKed meeting, several cities that have ports and how well they're working together, and in doing so, and maybe that's part of our joint workshop, getting more grants, the planning together, so I look forward to that coming up. I wanted to just quickly say, because I have been in contact for Main Street, that it's the time to decide if we're a designated Main Street or an affiliated Main Street level community. So I'm gonna listen to a little Zoom meeting at 8:30 in the morning obviously, we are what we are, just a member at the city level. I have been sharing emails with tourism and, some folks, who have been trying to, start a small business association no, I said it wrong. Cascade Locks. I'm not sure the name of it, but a business association and have filed some nonprofit status. Because I don't know that it's appropriate for me to be sending things out to all businesses, let them do that. So after I listen tomorrow, I was going to talk to the folks that are working on this nonprofit business association to see if any of them might be interested in joining at the affiliated Main Street level. But it doesn't have to be a city council thing. In fact, it's better, from all my understanding, that it's not, that the Main Street Association is run by, you know, the city. But here we are, that's all we have, so, and Jordan mentioned the grant that's coming. But we have time on that as well. I did forward you, if you look at, they do these Main Street roundups. So you look at your email, obviously BCC, so that we're not really quorum. You just wanna look this grant. The grants that are available for anything from transportation to, you know, buildings on Main Street to Park and Rec, they overwhelm me in the amount that we see are available, and yet we can't expect our city administrator to chase them all down. So I'm open to ideas from this council and our community on how we start to, you know, prioritize grants. So, and I don't know if that means grant writing committee or what that, I'm open to ideas, just want to put that out there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell?
I wanted to let people know that the Mid-Columbia Action Council Heating Assistance opens on December 1st. And they're scheduling appointments. I did post it on Facebook. That might be something that might be good to go in the next newsletter. I don't think it was in the next one.
Don't remember.
Yeah, but yeah, I just saw that. So they're taking appointments now, even though, I mean, calls now, even though the appointments won't begin until December 1st. And then the finance report stuff, is this gonna be updated for our budget committee members? I mean, are they getting,
Yeah, I can send that to committee member, yeah.
because this is really hard to see on the computer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, let's see here, what else? So our strategic planning, we had all put in input on what days were good for us to get together to talk about that for a 2-hour meeting. Are we just waiting until?
So I only got responses for 3 people in like a single, I never got a quorum, I guess is what I'm getting at. I talked to the mayor and my apologies, we're gonna try and do more dates later in the month.
Narrow it down to a couple dates, maybe.
Okay.
None, so.
I mean, I guess is there a general timeline that works best for council? Are we talking?
I got travel
We've got it.
plans. I like the way you did it last time, and I don't think we should take up council time right now. I'm trying to find a date. I think that the way we did it offline was a really good. way.
I guess, I mean,
Give
so
participation.
off the top of your head, if the second week of December.
I'll be gone.
You'll be gone, okay. Just.
It's actually, I mean, what do you say in the second week of December?
So, well, how about the 11th through the 15th? Or the 10th through the 16th? Instead of me giving 20 options across 3 weeks, I narrow it down to like 3 of them across
That
one.
week's works for me.
Are we just talking about it? I have
I got,
guest coming in, so is it for a 2-hour meeting, or are we still thinking about 2 hours? Is that?
2 to 3 hours, yeah. Okay.
I'm open that week. I mean, I have some conflict.
I mean, did you get enough answers to get, some proposed dates, or what are we doing from here? with
Yep,
that?
I'll send out new dates.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't get responses, can we get a deadline for when you need those responses back? And if you don't get responses, maybe call people?
Yep.
Could meet early on the 11th. Is that the council meeting? be a long,
That's, I don't think.
you can't.
What else? Oh, and then, lastly, we are meeting again in November. But Wednesday will be a holiday. Are we gonna be getting our packets on Tuesday, November 21st?
No, we'll get them on the 22nd. We'll do a hand delivery like we did last time.
But you guys, aren't you taking that as your?
No, we are open. We're doing a floating holiday,
Okay,
so we're not,
that's what I need to do.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Keller?
Thanks to everyone for the updates, Ms. Crane and Mr. Waterburn, thank you very much for that. And then the committee application is kind of hard to read, can we get a fillable PDF for somebody to complete? That's it.
Councilmember Crompton?
I wanna thank, Ms. Crane for her detailed report after such a short amount and working with what you had, lack of quorum, it's kind of difficult getting work done with no one to do the work. Thank you, Mr. Winterbottom, for waiving the increase this year. That is very generous and much appreciated by everybody in the city. I'm sure no one wants to pay an extra little bit after just getting an increase. And I want to say thank you to, who was the young gentleman's last name?
Mr. Ramos?
Mr. Ramos. It takes a lot of courage, especially when you're younger and not like everybody else, to step up and speak your opinion and be heard. And thank you for delivering these packets. That was very nice. I was not expecting that and was like, oh, and delivery.
Kind of spoiled. Alright. First of all, always thank you, city staff. It was really a treat to get that delivered. It was very, very much appreciated and it was a good reminder, like, oh yeah, you are closed on that day. Yes, thank you to Mr. Winterbottom. It was very generous of him, to no increase and then also to handle one of the residents' concerns here about their garbage can and increase, and he did it beautifully, just really did that. I really appreciate that. Mr. Ramos, I just applaud him so much, very well articulate. He expressed his concerns and his feelings very, very professionally, so it was impressive, and they're all valid concerns. Thank you, Mrs. Crane, just always good and good information, good details. Thank you for, Kyle. Got it right. Yes, thank you for bringing that up and those concerns, and always just get Jordan the pictures and whatnot, and so really appreciate that. Appreciate everyone else's input. And then, gosh, looking forward to a joint work group with the Port and City. I'm excited on that. There's all sorts of plans and fun things that are gonna come our way. Thank you to everybody for Halloween, everyone who coordinated that. The ports, Councilmember Baker, myself, and Sally Drew. I think we were the ones that, and Windermere, Holly, and Thunder Island, a couple other businesses as well. They were passing out candy, so really appreciative of all that. It was very well organized and ran this year. We went through, I had 160 bags and went through every one but one, but that was only because it was lost in my Jeep. But that tells you how many trick-or-treaters came through. So it was very well done, and thank you to, I think, Caroline, the port, everybody, just so many people worked on that, so really appreciate that. And then just a reminder to council, I know we get kind of sidetracked sometimes, but, you know, to be recognized, always just look at me and I will be happy to recognize you. And then also, you know, if we do make a mistake or something, correct somebody with kindness. None of us are perfect. And that, if I did skip over anything, it's not intentional. But it's always, you know, I just really encourage everyone to practice civility and take the high road, be kind, be nice. There isn't any need to be vicious or mean or condescending. And then that, we are going to go into executive session. So I am recessing regular session and will be entering into executive session under ORS 192.660. 2F exempt public records to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. So at that time, we're gonna go into executive session and if we could just take like a minute. So if anybody needs to make a body breath, and thank you to the